Marvel Rivals has one of the smoothest launches of any AAA title in recent history, with the servers running without any hitches, the game running fairly smoothly without any game-breaking bugs, and rolling out the gates with a fully functioning replay system, ranked system, 33 heroes, a ton of maps and so much content, and even an in-game cash prize tournament that's in about a week. And thanks to all of the hype leading up to the game's release, it is no wonder that Marvel Rivals already has broken tons of player count records, peaking at 444,286 players on Steam at its release, which doesn't even begin to include a vast amount of players on console, on Epic Games, or on the official websites. And going off the amount of console players I kept getting in the crossplay quick play lobbies, that being almost a majority of them, I don't think it's a far reach to assume that the true player count might just be in the millions. And after recording this, I just saw that Marvel Rivals tweeted out that the game had reached 10 million players after 72 hours, so my guess was not really that far off. For those who don't know too much about the game, a quick simple summary is that the game basically is like Overwatch, but hold on, it's good. It's third person with Marvel characters, and the balancing is a lot better than you would think, and it doesn't really play out like a typical Overwatch game. It reminds me more of the late 2010s Overwatch, 2016, 2017, rather than the annoying, invincible shield meta Overwatch that we have today. It takes everything Overwatch does, but it does it even better. And of course, there's Jeff. What is funny is that Marvel Rivals might just be the best competitive release, maybe even casual or multiplayer game release to come out in 2024. With gaming being in the state of drought and greed as it is right now, seeing a game like Marvel Rivals release is incredibly refreshing. Unlike most games you see nowadays, it's a finished product. And as I mentioned previously, it has a ton of features that would take seasons, if not years, to implement for the games that come before it. It also dropped during a time where all other competitive games are struggling to retain players. Most games die off almost immediately, and Overwatch, its direct competitor, has been going through a rough patch for quite some time. I mean, hell, Overwatch saw a very noticeable dip in players almost immediately after Marvel Rivals had its release. Some features that really stood out to me in Marvel Rivals ever since the closed beta are things like the upgraded and very extensive practice range. This thing is absolutely massive. There's so many things you can do. Yes, you can shoot these bots over here, but you can go down to some type of time trial. You can change so the bots are different heroes that you might want to shoot at. It really covers all the possible bases. There's destruction that you can play around with and so much more. There are 33 fleshed out heroes on release with descriptive hero information in the menu to let you get started fast. And according to Google, there were only 23 heroes during the start of the closed beta. So going from 23 heroes to 33 in the span of a couple of months is just insane. The battle pass doesn't expire, which gives you time to finish it at any time, even after the season has run out, which is massive, especially if you keep in mind that the games lately have been leaning more towards you need to pay twice for one battle pass a season. In Apex, for example, you would have one battle pass per split rather than one over the whole season. They were made for player retention, so if you don't finish them, you wouldn't get all of the content. There's also already crossplay between all of the platforms. Now, full disclaimer, I'm not sure how balancing certain things like aim assist at the moment, but it is cool to see crossplay off rip rather than many years into the game. And as I mentioned, there are already cash cup tournaments along with a ranked ladder that gives some direct rewards. This rewards competitive grinders out of the gate, and it helps foster a competitive scene. The only other game with in-game cash cups that even comes to mind is Fortnite, who invested $1 million into their competitive scene very early, and we all know how that went. And I enjoy playing the game. It runs really smoothly. It is satisfying to hit shots. I'm a hit scan enjoyer. Kind of wish there were more hit scan heroes. Maybe it'll be down the line, but I'll still take it. It is still fun. I feel like my hits actually do some damage thanks to the feedback. I've seen some chatters say that it doesn't feel that satisfying, but I just disagree. Now, all glazing aside, I do think that the game is deserving of some fair criticism. One huge problem with the game, or maybe by extension also its community, is that everyone just wants to play DPS. The game almost requires a 2-to-2 composition to be viable, with 2 tanks, DPS and healers, but it's usually more common to see 5 DPS and 1 healer or 1 tank rather than anything else. It leads to some pretty annoying games if you really want to win. I'm not sure what the solution is here, and some community members have suggested roll queue, but roll queue will definitely slow the game's queues down, and it will make the game feel a lot less flexible, which to some were things that previously ruined Overwatch. Personally, I see the value in both systems, but in my opinion, I wouldn't mind seeing roll queue for ranked, and I'm fine with seeing it in the quick play queues as well, as long as the queues keep popping fast. I think another big reason why there's so many DPS players right now is that between beta and today, I believe that NetEase added 1 support hero, and then every new hero have been DPS heroes. So anyone who played in the beta or saw anything about the game is going to be more inclined to want to try out the new content rather than playing heroes that they already know everything about. I'm not sure why NetEase didn't add another Vanguard, why they didn't add another tank or another support, or maybe more than that. But again, maybe that'll just come down the line. There's also a few balancing issues, which full disclosure might just be skill issues that need to be counterpicked. You know, time will tell. But if I'm gonna throw my hat in the ring, maybe it's a balance issue or just a fun ruiner, Iron Fist might need some tweaking, since he shuts down almost every duelist in the game with practically no effort, just by holding the punch button. But again, I do know you can counter him with flyers or focus and sticking with your team, but that obviously isn't something everyone wants to do, since it does make the game less fun for them as well, which means he would be more of an anti-fun hero rather than a good one. I also mentioned a few other issues with the game in a previous review video I made way back in the closed beta, and most of the positive things I said in the review still apply. You know, the game is satisfying, it's fun, it's refreshing, and NetEase has an infinite well of heroes that they can pull from to create new characters thanks to the extensive Marvel IP. And while some things I mentioned have been fixed in the game, like making it more clear that you're reloading by adding a marker on the crosshair, there are still a few things that they didn't address that kind of cause issues as you keep playing the game. The biggest one for me is going to be visual clutter. There's a lot of effects and whatnots flying around in any team fight or even in duels, and it makes keeping track of the enemies or even your own crosshair at times pretty difficult. And when you couple the very cluttered screens with the fact that the enemy hero outlines are ridiculously thin, then that makes it very difficult to stay aware of what's going on in the average fight. It seems like the enemy outline is the same amount of pixels whether they're away or close or something, which makes the outlines feel very huge when the enemy is really far away, but small and way too thin if an enemy is up close. Some type of setting here would probably help out a lot, and seeing as NetEase have added tons of ways you can customize the game to make it run just how you want it, I wouldn't say that this is too much of an ask. I also have to mention that the audio does seem spotty at times, and while I sometimes can perfectly pinpoint where an enemy is behind walls, or even if they're on completely different floors, sometimes I can't even hear an enemy that's right next to me, in front of me, or behind me. It's pretty annoying if I'm holding an angle as, say, Black Widow, since I'm trying to rely on the sound cues to know whether I should stop aiming down the scope or not. But those are just a few things that I want NetEase to look into and maybe improve sooner rather than later. But all in all, the game is extremely polished, and it seems like NetEase games have done everything they can to cover all of their bases, because in order to compete with a game as established as Overwatch that's been out for, wow, what, like 8 years? They're gonna have to make a very strong product that has at least the same features that Overwatch has, and then some. And with or without continued support like the one we've seen from the developers so far, I have a feeling that Marvel Rivals will have a very strong staying power for quite a while, both thanks to its solid quality of a game, but also since they are investing into the community in all ways possible from the very start, making sure that they capture the diehard players while still keeping the casuals happy and engaged. I'm still gathering my thoughts on the game as we speak, and as I keep playing the game and, well, you know, streaming it, I'm also preparing to make a full review of the game, both comparing my previous review of Marvel Rivals as well as how the game holds up on its own at release. If you guys are interested in that video, make sure that you subscribe. If you guys want to hear a quick summary of every hero in the game because you're curious to try it out, click the video on the screen. Anyways, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Peace out.